How's it going, everyone? It's Harvey from Weatherspoon 5000, and in this video, we're going to focus on the next few snowstorms moving through the United States and see who will receive the heaviest snowfall in the near future from one of these snowstorms. So first, let's take a look at the latest run of the European model. So we have been talking about this next northeast snowstorm over the past several days, and based on the latest run of the most reliable computer models, it seems pretty certain that the heaviest snowfall will focus in more on the interior northeast. It's highly unlikely at this point we're going to see the snow move close to the east coast of the United States, as it seems like the computer models have homed in on the forecast where they believe that this ridge will be strong enough to bring a strong enough southerly flow right up along the coast for the warm air to intrude and for this storm system to pretty much entirely be a rain event for the coastal northeast. But it's a different story taking a look at the interior northeast. So moving forward with the forecast, we do see the European model is still a bit more aggressive when it comes to the exact range of snowfall, the exact size of the area of snowfall, where it still wants to bring a heavy amount of snowfall right over central and northern Pennsylvania, and the heaviest snowfall extends into the higher elevations of upstate New York as well. And look at the pressure of this storm system. It is weaker compared to what the European model was forecasting in its prior runs, which is the reason why the European model isn't as aggressive when it comes to how heavy the snowfall will be in the interior northeast, mainly due to the fact that the northerly winds aren't strong enough to expand that area of snow. So as a result, we're going to see these areas get exposed to a heavy amount of snowfall for less time, since the area is smaller, and the area of heavy snowfall will be a lot smaller compared to yesterday, thanks to the lack of cold air compared to yesterday's run. So, but still, you should expect a heavy amount of snowfall in portions of upstate New York and northern Pennsylvania moving forward with the forecast. We do see this snowfall could maybe move into Albany, but I wouldn't expect any snowfall accumulation for Albany. It seems like at least the time you're going to be exposed to snowfall will be a little bit too short of a duration for any meaningful accumulation to occur right over Albany, since for the most part the temperature in Albany should be a little bit too warm for a large duration of snowfall to occur, especially since it's right around sea level compared to the rest of upstate New York where it's highly elevated. So of course the temperature right around Albany will be a few degrees warmer, which will keep the snowfall from accumulating over Albany. And this snow could extend into the northern portion of Vermont as well. Make sure to prepare for anywhere between 3 to 6 to 6 to 8 inches of snowfall in the higher elevations of northern Vermont, but pretty much entirely a rain event outside, with the exception of Vermont and maybe New Hampshire as well, on the backside of this storm system. But the winds should be a concern for much of southern New England, where while the millibar pressure isn't as strong as what the European model originally forecast, it's still low enough to bring a strong amount of wind. We do see that there's going to be plenty of cold air behind this storm system and a high amount of instability for the wind speed to increase surrounding the center of circulation, where we have this very cool, dense air mass trying to filter into this very warm air mass right over the eastern half of this storm system, and especially since the eastern half will be exposed to the very warm Gulf Stream waters, which will enhance the instability and the overall wind speed and the intensification of this storm system. So right up along New England coast, you could expect wind gusts anywhere between 50 to 60 miles per hour. Let me show you guys a forecasted 10-meter wind map. This is measured in knots, and moving forward with the forecast, look at how strong the winds get right up along the coast of New England. Let me move a little bit further back, and especially Long Island as well. They're exposed to anywhere between 30 to 40 knot winds, which is equivalent to maybe around 35 to 50 mile per hour wind sustained right over Long Island and southern New England. So you definitely need to prepare for that. The possibility of power outages, I definitely wouldn't rule out with winds this strong, as well as many loose items that are outdoors blowing in the wind. So if you have any loose items outside, make sure to bring those things inside, or at least put it in a more secure location where it won't be a flying projectile, because these winds are certainly capable of pulling a lot of these lighter weight items up in the air, and those could cause damage to yours or other people's property. So you definitely want to take the necessary precautions as the storm system continues ahead further eastward. But the rain and the wind will be the primary threat for the Northeast, while the snowfall will be the primary threat up in the interior portions of upstate New York, Pennsylvania, and Vermont. Now, in terms of the exact snowfall you should expect, this is based on the European model's forecast. Keep in mind, this is under the assumption that 1 inch of rain equates to 10 inches of snowfall, and that's typically far from the case in most scenarios, because every snowstorm is different, and depending on the temperature between different levels of the atmosphere, the ratio between precipitable rainfall and snowfall could vary. And since this storm system will be relatively warm cored, I'd assume that 1 inch of rain would equate to a little bit less snowfall, since there's a little bit more water per snowflake in the warmer storm systems like this one we're seeing. So expect less snowfall than what you see right here, but still you should expect 3 to 5 inches of snowfall, and then localized areas of 6 to 8 inches, especially in the higher elevations of the Adirondacks, maybe extending into portions of the Catskills as well, especially further westward into the Catskills, where you'll be exposed to the cold air a little bit more. And look at that small stretch of Albany barely receiving any snowfall, because like I said, it seems like the elevation is a little bit too low right around the Albany metropolitan area. So don't expect much snowfall over there, but still be prepared for the heavy amount of snowfall if you live in these areas. The GFS model is forecasting a fairly similar range when it comes to where exactly the heaviest snowfall will occur, right over upstate New York, and it's less than what the European model is forecasting, which I do believe is a more accurate scenario. What we're seeing right here, thanks to the fact that the GFS model tends to be better when it comes to storm systems that are intensifying as they move further eastward, because the European model has a pretty bad bias of intensifying storm systems a little bit too quickly as they approach the Northeast. It seems like the GFS model is a bit more accurate when it comes to a storm system like this, as it was already correct, and now we're beginning to see the European model follow the footsteps a little bit more of the GFS model, which makes me believe that this scenario from the GFS model is going to be the more accurate scenario when it comes to snowfall. But nevertheless, there still could be a significant snowstorm for areas of upstate New York and northern New England, where you could expect mostly around 3 to 6 inches of snowfall, and of course localized areas a little bit more than that. So make sure to take the necessary precautions. Now, in terms of any other storms that could occur in the more long-term future, so if we were to move forward with what the GFS model is currently forecasting, so of course we're going to have this storm system move through the Northeast right around the Monday timeframe, so make sure to prepare for that in the Northeast. But beyond that point, it should be relatively quiet for the early part of next week. We're going to see temperatures cooler than average for the most part for the Midwest and portions of the Northeast, mainly due to the fact that this low will bring a stronger northerly flow, which will keep the cold air a little bit further southward. And we are in the negative North Atlantic oscillation, so that does certainly promote more cold air along the eastern half of the U.S. And moving forward with the forecast, we do see the next thing that I'm really interested in is this snowstorm that could develop somewhere in the southern Midwest. This could impact northern Texas, maybe New Mexico and Kansas and Oklahoma, where we do see a pretty heavy but small area of snowfall right over northern Texas and among other areas right around the southern Midwest. And moving forward with the forecast, we do see it doesn't become necessarily intense or extremely elongated storm system. The snowfall is over a fairly small area, but it is heavy at times, and it's certainly capable of dumping a heavy amount of snowfall, even if it's over a fairly small area. As the way the GFS model expects the storm system to develop is by a low that's coming off the Pacific Northwest, which will weaken as it approaches the Midwest thanks to a lack of instability, but it'll re-encounter an unstable environment once it reaches Texas, of course, due to the fact that we're seeing a strong southerly flow from this ridge that's bringing that very warm and humid Gulf of Mexico air mass further northward. And once this cool Arctic air mass interacts with that very warm air mass, that's going to create a highly convective environment, which is exactly what we see right around the Wednesday timeframe. Now, there's still uncertainty with the forecast. This area of snowfall could be larger than what you see right here, depending on how much cold air is really behind this storm system. And another thing too is that this low pressure system will be considered an upper level low, and what that means is that it would be disconnected from the jet stream in this scenario, which means that this storm would move fairly slowly, which could cause issues for southern portions of the southern Midwest, because if we were to see a snowstorm develop under these conditions where it won't be necessarily connected to the jet or disconnected from the jet stream, then that would mean that this storm would linger around, bringing a prolonged period of rainfall and snowfall, and that could definitely cause issues if that were to occur. So I'll say that most likely it'll be disconnected by the jet stream. It seems like the computer models have agreed upon that fact, but we're going to need to see the other steering currents to determine how long it'll stay over the Texas and southern Midwest region, because that'll be key in determining the amount of rainfall and snowfall you see. Eventually, the GFS model does want to steer it, but very slowly to the east, which could definitely cause issues for portions of the Midwest. I'll keep you guys updated as we get a better idea of how the steering currents will be by the time this upper level low approaches the southern Midwest. But definitely something to keep tabs on right over the panhandle of Texas into Oklahoma, Kansas, even New Mexico and Colorado could get involved with this storm system, and maybe this could become even bigger than what we imagine if the instability ends up being a little bit stronger than what the GFS model is stating. We won't get a really good idea, I'll say, maybe until the Tuesday timeframe. Once this low actually moves ashore, that's when we'll get a good idea of when this storm or how powerful this storm will be and how impactful it'll be for the southern Midwest. There's still that possibility that maybe barely any snowfall occurs or little to no snowfall. There could still be that possibility that maybe there isn't enough cold air to change that rain into snowfall. I definitely wouldn't rule that out, but with the GFS and the European model forecasting at least some sort of snowfall over this area, I'll say it's the most likely scenario, but the big question remains how much snowfall, and the location still is uncertain since we're still around 150 hours out. So around 6 days out, this would occur right between Thursday and Friday of next week. So I'll keep you guys updated with any major changes with the forecast. Taking a look at what the European model is expecting when it comes to this same snowstorm. So let me go to the high resolution European model. That's where we want to see the radar. We definitely don't want to see the height anomaly. That doesn't give a good idea of what's happening at all. But taking a look at the forecasted radar from the high resolution European model and continuing to move forward with the forecast, eventually this storm does develop, but it's a little bit later than it's around the same time period as GFS model. The convective activity develops thanks to a low coming off the Pacific Northwest coast, and we do see a decent amount of snow right over New Mexico, but the area again is very small, and this moves a little bit northward into Kansas, and it's a fairly weak storm system, mainly due to the fact that it isn't dealing with a lot of instability. And that's typically the problem with many upper level lows, is that since they're disconnected from the jet stream, there isn't enough cold air where it could pull from and enhance the convective activity over the storm system, and it's going to deal with the same problem. It might move a little bit faster in the European model scenario, but still a fairly weak storm since it's going to be disconnected. So I'll say the most likely scenario is that unless we see this jet stream dip a lot further southward, it'll be a smaller storm with a smaller area of snowfall. It wouldn't necessarily be this massive mid-latitude low by what we're seeing right now. That could change if the jet stream ends up moving southward, but as right now, it seems like it's a little bit more likely it'll be a smaller storm, but it still could dump a heavy amount of snowfall, mainly due to the fact that it could be a slow moving storm since it's an upper level low. So I'll just keep you guys updated over the next several days, so stay tuned. Another thing I want to show you guys in this video is that we are in a negative North Atlantic oscillation, which means that we're more likely to see jet stream dips and a cooler air mass over the eastern half of the United States for the next week. However, it isn't necessarily leading to a major snowstorm, at least in the near future, for the coastal Northeast. So as of right now, you should expect just cooler than average temperatures, and I'll give you guys an update once I see a more legitimate shot of snowfall in the more populated areas of the Midwest and the Northeast. So here's a quick look at the Futurecast radar over the next several days, and taking a look at the radar, we do see the snow will eventually move into the Midwest right around the Friday morning time frame, more specifically right over North Dakota, where you could experience maybe around an inch or two of snowfall, and this should enhance the instability for a convective environment to develop right over the Midwest. We do see a decent amount of rain showers and thunder showers developing by the late Friday into early Saturday timeframe. This area of thunder shower activity definitely expands, especially as we approach the daytime, once the daytime heating really takes place and enhances the instability, and we do see it becomes a pretty strong line of thunderstorms. So some of these thunderstorms could be severe, so you want to be aware of that right around the Mississippi River Valley. And this rain, I'll say right around the late Saturday into early Sunday time frame, will eventually transition into snow along the northern edge. So definitely keep tabs on this over the next several days, where the southeast, right, especially the Mississippi River Valley, should experience the worst of the severe weather in Saturday night, and then the rain should approach Indiana and Illinois right around the Saturday afternoon to Saturday night time frame. So here's my overall forecast for the entirety of the United States. So for portions of the Midwest, I'm expecting right around 3 to 6 inches of snowfall. Not the Midwest, the Northeast. I'm expecting 3 to 6 inches of snowfall right around the Western Catskills. Pretty much the entirety of the Adirondacks is covered with anywhere between 3 to 6 to 6 to 12 inches of snowfall, so definitely be prepared for that. 1 to 3 inches for northern Pennsylvania. It seems like the duration is going to be a little bit less than initially anticipated, where you're going to be under snowfall, but you still should see anywhere between 1 to 3 inches of snowfall. This extends into western upstate New York, and then for the higher elevations of West Virginia, you could expect 3 to 6 inches of snowfall and 1 to 3 in the slightly lower elevated areas. And make sure to keep tabs on this next big Midwest snowstorm that could occur by next week. But that's it for now, guys, and I thank you guys for watching.